The long-awaited clash between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn has finally concluded. Here's how the pros reacted.
No, good fight, good fight. You don't want nothing more. As a boxing fan, that was fantastic. I enjoyed every second of it. Good fight, I'm happy.
What did you think of Eubank's performance? Do you think he won the fight?
Yeah, I think he won the fight. It's a good fight, though. Really close, really close. Everything was. I think it's a good fight.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think Eubank should do, or do you think they should run it back, Fraser?
Of course, it's a business. They can run it back, man.
It surprised me. I didn't know he had what he had in him. I really didn't. I thought I would break him early. I underestimated him. You know, I didn't train for a fight like that. You know, I didn't know he had that in him.
Forget that, just unbelievable respect for both men. I could not be prouder of Conor Benn for what he's been through and the heart that he showed in the ring tonight. You know, Nigel Benn was the people's champion. Tonight, Conor Benn become the people's champion.
How do you feel, Senior?
Extraordinary performance. And I give credit to Conor Benn because let me tell you what, I was always right. What did I say to you? He's an extraordinary fighter, but the promoters are bringing him up, which is spoiling his weight at 147. What did I say? I've been saying it for, what, 2 years? That man can go across to the United States and actually tear it up. And you saw that. You saw that. Junior is too big a man. These weights that they are flouting is, you know, they're destroying the fighters.
I saw my 100-metre sprint from Ben Whittaker, so I promised myself I'd keep it calm tonight, but I couldn't be more happy, more proud. Look, I have to be honest, I was shocked. I was shocked at what an unbelievable fight it was. I was shocked at how good Conor Benn was. I'm okay to say that. I think Eubank Jr. got the shock of his life in those early rounds. And then he just came on strong, dug deep and showed his class, and those last 2 rounds were phenomenal. But unbelievable fight, and an unbelievable night, and great for Senior to be here as well.
How did you score it, Ben?
Probably 3 or 4 rounds in Junior's favour, but as I say, I think those last 2 rounds were really what took Junior far ahead. I think it was nip and tuck up into that. Look, for me, Junior should be winning in more devastating fashion, in my opinion. But Conor Benn was phenomenal. I look, maybe I've underestimated Conor Benn. I did not expect it to be like that. I thought he was really, really good. I thought Chris had to end up being really, really good, and we just saw a phenomenal fight. I mean, for any boxing fan watching that for the first time, what do you think? You see Eubank, you see Ben, you see Chris Senior, you see the emotion, you see the family ties, and then you get to see a 12-round unbelievable fight. It's the greatest advert for British boxing we've had in a long time.
Some people call that DNA. I say like this.
Guys, move to one side, please. One side, please.
Did that fight live up to expectation?
Yes, it did. But I believe it's a draw. Both fighters, nobody needs to lose today. It's a f***ing draw.
If you had to give it to someone, anyone edged it?
No. They f***ing worked hard in the gym. They trained hard. So f*** that. It's a draw.
Better. A lot better, bro. A lot better. What a fight it was. Just massive props to Conor Benn, bro. He's a welterweight at the end of the day. He come up, great fight. I had it a draw personally. Yeah, I had it a draw. Very close fight. Done their fathers proud, done the boxing world proud, and yeah, brilliant, bro.
What were the key moments for Eubank? What do you think won him the fight?
I think it was the little burst he kept doing at the end of the last 3 rounds, and I think the only thing that kind of played in his part was the experience. But then I keep saying that, but then I still had it a draw. But yeah, I think they should do it again.
If one was to win, who would you have given it to?
It's a bit of a hard one, that, but I'd have to pick Eubank, only because he pushed the pace. And like I said, that's due to experience. But yeah.
What a fight, lived up to the hype. Yeah, it was a great fight. What can I say? You know what I mean? I think Eubank did enough to win, but very competitive all the way through. On edge of your seat, it was good.
Were you impressed by Conor? Because ultimately he was the lighter fighter in there tonight.
Yeah, you know, Eubanks is no Golovkin. You know what I mean? You could see the weight. He started to look tired, but you know, Conor had that energy. You know, moving up the weight, he had more energy inside him. But you know what I mean? Equally matched. You know what I mean? It lived up to the hype, and You know what I mean? They didn't let the fans down.
Is that how you scored it? 116, 112?
I don't know. I had him 2 rounds. In the last couple, it were neck and neck, and then I had the last couple of rounds where he took it.
What do you think Conor would have to do different in a rematch?
I don't know. I think he would have learned loads from that fight. You know, I would have liked him to start. You know, in the smaller fight, use his jab more. You know, more twitches, more feints. You know, worked a better game plan. But you know, he didn't do much wrong. To be fair, he fought best to his ability.
I feel pretty good. I mean, I thought he fought again. I'm the type of guy, I pay homage to both fighters. I thought they both put their hearts on the line.
Yeah.
I thought they both gave everything they had. And if they could have gave more to the crowd, they would have gave more.
Yeah.
I think the biggest winner was Great Britain. Just my opinion. You got 2 native people put on a massive performance just for the hometown.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get that all the time. That's a rare commodity that you can have. So
yeah, for sure.
I think that this fight would be talked about for a very long time.
For sure.
You know, but I'm happy that we get to walk away with the victory, to answer your question.
Of course. Conor started a little bit faster. He was very energetic. Not sure whether that was nervous energy, etc., etc. Where do you think Chris played his part in the fight? Where were his better rounds from your opinion?
I think he met his he met him at his. Conor started fast.
Yeah.
Chris matched that.
Okay.
That was the difference in the whole fight. If Chris would have started slow, then the fight would have been totally lopsided.
Yeah.
But because Chris started right away. And a lot of people underestimate one thing when it comes to boxing. Your left hand is here for a reason. You may not knock guys out, but you damn sure can win rounds with it.
Yeah.
His left hand was key. He kept popping his jab.
Yeah.
You know, and my teacher taught me very well, the late great Emmanuel Stewart, how to use the left hand. Left hand is the key piece. He taught Lennox. I'm sure everybody know who that is. and no one thought he would outbox Holyfield, but he did it. Just using his jab, perfecting his jab.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all about the skill of the sport and not just the violence of it. And I thought he did a pretty good job tonight.
Unbelievable atmosphere, incredible fight. You know, the fight really ignited, and you know they both played their part in that. They both battled hard. Neither gave up, neither wanted to give in. The will they both showed was incredible, and Junior at 36 years old, he had to show his resolve there. He had to dig deep into the well and pull it out in the championship rounds. And I was impressed for him to be able to do that at 36 years old. It's impressive.
Speaking on the magnitude of the fight, Carl Froch shared his thoughts with Mike Costello. Mike described the bout as nothing short of a monumental occasion, highlighting how the long-standing rivalry between the fighters and the historic feud between their fathers elevated this clash into a truly epic showdown.
That would be a monster occasion.
Yeah, I love
no
that
matter
analogy.
no matter what their records were, and you know, here you've got two sons who, in my opinion, are not as good as either of their dads, but because of that history going back.
In the meantime, Carl Froch didn't hold back in expressing his disapproval of the fight. He was particularly critical of Chris Eubank Jr., questioning why he even chose to step into the ring. Froch pointed out Eubank's recent track record of losses and openly doubted his ability to secure a win, wondering what made him believe he was ready for such a high-stakes showdown.
It's a shame, isn't it? Well,
it's a shame because
Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr., that'll be out there, wouldn't it?
Conor Benn, Chris Eubank, will it?
Well, I think it's highly likely,
potentially,
but it's not guaranteed.
Well, to be honest, it can be out there for all I care, because it's not, for me, it's not a fight I want to see.
Right, not excited
Chris
by that.
Eubank Jr. is 35 years old, well past his best. What's he ever done? Lost to every time he stepped up.
Lost to George Groves, didn't he?
Lost to George Groves, lost to Billy Joe Saunders.
Yeah.
So every time he's stepped up, he's got found out. He got f***ing ironed out by Liam Smith.
Yeah.
Battered.
Yeah.
I know he got him in the rematch, but Liam Smith was dead on scales. I mean,
Prior to the fight, Eddie Hearn also weighed in, expressing his amazement at Conor Benn moving up 2 weight divisions from 147. He strongly believed the bout would swing in Benn's favor and was vocal in his support, claiming Conor was clearly the superior fighter to Chris Eubank Jr. across all rounds.
Conor Benn is leaping up 2 divisions from 147 to fight a much bigger man. And that's what makes it a 50-50 fight, because I think all round, Conor's the better fighter.
Ben Shalom also made his voice heard, standing firmly behind his fighter, Chris Eubank Jr. He expressed full confidence in Eubank, insisting there was no way he could lose. Shalom saw Chris as being vastly superior to Conor Benn, and predicted the outcome decisively favored Eubank.
He won't lose, he can't lose. He could fight Conor Benn 100 times, I believe, and beat him 100 times.
Sharing his prediction, Amir Khan spoke from the heart, acknowledging that both fighters were extremely impressive. However, he asserted that Chris Eubank Jr. came out on top. Khan also revealed that in the lead up to the fight, he had shifted his support from Conor Benn to Eubank Jr.
Ben and Eubank, I like both guys. So last time I said Ben, this time I'm gonna say Eubank.
Before the fight took place, Tony Bellew offered a detailed breakdown of how he saw things playing out. He believed the first 6 rounds would likely belong to Conor Benn, noting that if Chris Eubank Jr. could withstand the early pressure and absorb everything Benn threw at him, the momentum could shift in Eubank's favor as the fight progressed.
The first 6 rounds will belong to Conor Benn. He will not be able to keep Conor Benn off for 6 rounds. If he is able to absorb what Conor Benn is able to dish out for 6 rounds, the fight then turns in his favor.
While the outcome of the fight may have aligned with the expectations of those who shared their insights beforehand, the press conference itself was nothing short of a dramatic roller coaster. Chris Eubank Jr. was at the center of it all, stirring things up throughout, most notably getting into a heated exchange with Eddie Hearn, which escalated to the point where Hearn even told him not to sleep.
Eddie. I knew this was coming. Do you know what I've been thinking?
Was coming.
Do you know what I've been thinking? Can I not even say a few thank yous or?
No.
Okay. Matchroom have to speak, right? So I'm going to switch it up. I'm just going to firstly say how proud I am of Conor Benn. What he's been through these last 2 years, and I can't wait for him to smash you to pieces on Saturday night. But Matchroom have to be represented, so I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to let someone else speak on my behalf. I'm going to let someone else speak on my behalf.
You don't have to.
I'm going to introduce you to scumbag number 2, Frank Smith. Come and take over.
Nigel Benn was also present at the press conference, where he shared his thoughts on the highly anticipated showdown. Reflecting on Conor Benn's intense preparation, he highlighted the quality of his sparring partners, particularly mentioning William Skull, who is set to face Canelo. Nigel noted that during those sessions, Conor was hitting harder than ever, a sign of how seriously he had taken this fight.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but what happens in Mallorca, I'm telling. I am telling. And I'll tell you about Conor's sparring, and God is my witness. First he started sparring with Denzel Bentley, super middleweight, but really at light heavy. Had his hands full with Conor. I mean, Conor was just going through it 10 rounds, done it easy. Then he was sparring with a guy that knocked out Munguia, Bruno, I can't remember his last name, Ceres, been sparring with him, another light heavy. Conor was bullying him around. And then to put the cherry on top, he started sparring with a guy called William Skull.
Amid all the buzz, one major controversy that grabbed headlines was Chris Eubank Jr. missing weight, a move that sparked strong reactions. Despite boasting about his discipline and determination in the lead up to facing one of his top rivals, falling short on the scales was a significant misstep that many felt tarnished his image.
No, I don't think so. I think it's just a miscalculation from Eubank's side. I mean, it was the tiniest of margins. It's not like he's purposely done this. If he did, guys, he would have come in at 162 pound, 163 pound, and he would have done that. But he's clearly tried to make the weight because it's such a small margin. I don't think that's going to sway the public perception of, Eubank and going into this fight. I think that he will start a firm public favourite going into this one. I think with the controversies that's been surrounding that first fight and the failed drugs testings by Conor Benn a couple of years ago, I think that, I think that the fans have definitely swayed towards Eubank in this one.
With Chris Eubank Jr. being fined $500,000, the situation quickly took a different turn. Sharing his thoughts, Spencer Oliver suggested the penalty may have been an overreaction, pointing out that the weight discrepancy was minimal. He went on to analyze the weight differences between Conor Benn and Eubank Jr., noting that despite the controversy, the fight didn't lose any of its hype. In fact, the drama only seemed to fuel fan interest, with many doubling down on Eubank Jr. as their favorite.
160 is the weight, so he's got to be dead on it. 160.2 pounds at the first visit, 160.05 pounds at the second visit, 2 failed weight attempts, and he's fined $500,000.
That's incredible. You know, 0.5 is like sort of is half an ounce. That's what we're talking about here, which is the tiniest of margins. So, yeah, very unfortunate for Chris Eubank Jr. and how will that affect him psychologically going into this fight. But one thing it does tell us is that he is struggling to make that weight, or was it just a miscalculation? Because, I mean, look, they're the tiniest of margins here, guys. We're not talking about a pound or half a pound. We're talking about ounces here.
In addition to the buzz, Gareth A. Davies also shared his perspective on the fight. He pointed out that this bout was completely different from their previous encounter. In his view, the last fight saw Conor Benn performing impressively with relentless aggression throughout. Despite that, Davies had predicted that Chris Eubank Jr. would win this time on point.
Eubank Benn.
Yeah, well, it's bigger than it ever was. It's 3 times bigger than it was before the 2 positive clomiphene tests. Ben's dangerous early in that fight, in my view, because he's coming with all that stinging venom and kind of pent-up aggression that he's developed over the last 2.5 years. But I think Eubank's fought the better level of opponents, even though he's aged 2.5 years and he's been knocked out by Liam Smith. I go Eubank on point.
Before the fight, Johnny Nelson also weighed in with his prediction, confidently asserting that Chris Eubank Jr. would win on points. While he admitted he wasn't particularly impressed with Eubank's performance in his previous bout, Nelson still backed him, citing Eubank's experience as the deciding factor.
So far, I see I'd lean towards Chris, even though I wasn't impressed with his last fight. Ask me again after the weigh-in, and when I see them both on the scales, then we'll see.
Roy Jones Jr. also voiced his support for Chris Eubank Jr., emphasizing that Eubank's experience and size advantage would give him the edge. While he praised both fighters for their distinct fighting styles and competitiveness, he ultimately predicted that Eubank would come out victorious.
A great fight. Both fighters are great fighters. I love both of them. I think Chris is a little bigger and has the advantage because he's bigger, but it's going to be a great fight.
Showbiz the Adult also shared his prediction, drawing parallels between this fight and Oscar De La Hoya's 2008 bout, which inspired his analysis. While he ultimately predicted that Chris Eubank Jr. would win, he made it clear that he was heavily favoring Conor Benn, so much so that he planned to put his money on Benn.
Me too, I am predicting a Chris Eubank Jr. win, but where I'm going to put my money is going to be on Conor Benn because of the history. The similarities of what we saw in 2008 with Manny Pacquiao and Oscar De La Hoya. No, Conor Benn is no Manny Pacquiao, but don't get it confused. Chris Eubank Jr. is definitely no Oscar De La Hoya.
Before the fight, Barry Hearn also shared his thoughts, expressing strong support for Conor Benn. He reflected on the challenges Benn had already overcome and praised the dedication shown in his preparations. While he viewed the matchup as a 50-50 contest, Hearn ultimately predicted that Conor Benn would knock Chris Eubank Jr. out.
The personalities, the backstory between the dads, everything works to make this humongous. We could have sold 500,000 tickets. I think I'm with Conor Benn on this. I think he's gone through more than enough in his life, which has now been completely exonerated. What a waste of 2 years of a young man's life. He's got a point to prove, but Eubank is the bigger man. So I see it as a 50-50 fight, and I believe that Conor Benn can knock out Eubank Jr.
Tony Bellia was also backing Conor Benn going into the fight. He predicted that the bout would be decided within 6 rounds and raised concerns that if it went beyond that, the momentum could shift unpredictably. Bellew emphasized that Benn would unleash explosive combinations from start to finish, making him a serious threat early on.
I think Conor stops him, and I think Conor stops him in 6 rounds, but if this fight is to go past 6 rounds, this is a real struggle. This is like, I can't paint in any way, shape or form this fight to not work out and not be a great fight. I think it's going to be an absolutely brilliant fight. I just can't see how it can't be. The styles will gel. you've got to understand that Conor Benn is not going to stop throwing punches. Conor Benn is going to be ferocious. He's going to be explosive. It's up to how much can Chris Eubank Jr. take? That is the question.
Ahead of the fight, Steve Collins and Spencer Oliver offered their insights on how they saw things unfolding. Steve highlighted the noticeable improvements in Conor Benn's style and pointed out that his youth gave him a significant edge this time around. On the other hand, Oliver emphasized the stakes for Chris Eubank Jr., stating that if he were to lose, retirement might have to be a serious consideration.
Where do you position him, Steve?
I think that Conor is still improving.
Yeah.
I wish he had more time, a couple of years earlier, started boxing earlier, would be at a higher level. I think Eubank is probably a little below his peak, but still at a top level. I think Conor's still improving. But they can't wait around for another couple of years for this fight to happen because the age, Eubank Jr. is getting older. So I think if Conor wins this, I think he's going to go on to improve even more, become a better fighter. I think it's early in his career. He's getting this fight.
He's sort of in a win-win position, though, Conor, isn't he? Because if he loses this,
he's
at 160, he's a
147
fighter. And if he wins, he takes himself up to another stratosphere.
Yeah.
So I think it's a win-win. Whereas with Eubank, he loses.
Yeah, it's done.
It's all over.
Weighing in on the fight, Liam Smith also shared his thoughts. He anticipated it would be a closely contested bout, but admitted he was leaning slightly toward Chris Eubank Jr. While he acknowledged the danger Conor Benn brought to the ring, Smith added that he would be surprised if Benn managed to pull off a win.
You know what, I'm a little bit torn at the moment, but I'll stick with what I've always said. I think Eubank beats him on points, but I won't be surprised if Conor wins. I think Eubank is firmly on the slide, and I know I get stick for saying that. I also think 160 is hitting him now. He's starting to mention it a few times, so that's why I bring Conor into it a little bit more. But like I said before, that being said, if Conor flattens Chris, I won't be surprised. I won't be like, wow, Conor's just knocked Chris out. And if Chris was the same to Conor, I won't be surprised because Conor's been down, many times before off journeyman, lesser punches than Chris, so I won't be surprised with the outcome, but I do think it's a closer fight this time round.
What a fight that was! After all the build-up, drama, and bold predictions, Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn definitely delivered a showdown to remember. From the press conference tension to the weight controversy, and all the expert takes leading up to it, this clash had everything boxing fans could ask for. And now that it's all said and done, some were spot on, and others not so much. What did you think of the fight? Did the outcome live up to the hype? If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fight analysis, reactions, and boxing content every week. Hit that bell icon so you never miss a punch.